Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I rank the 1996 NFL Properties Santa Claus cards. So 1996 was the fourth year of the 5 years that they did the NFL Properties Santa Claus Redemption card set. And it was a cool idea. The idea was that every single card company would make a Santa Claus card and they go together as an annual set of cards that could either be done as kind of like a prototype card to show off the brand, or just a card, a holiday card that was created by the card company entirely independent of itself. Maybe the technology was used, maybe it was not. However they wanted to approach it, great idea. And early on, most of the card companies really took it seriously, and we saw a lot of fun creativity. It was just fun to go through the whole card set and just see the different ideas and the quality that came out with the different cards. But unfortunately, as the years progressed, that fell away quite a bit, and by 1997, almost all the creativity was gone. In 96, there was still some, but it felt a lot more like they were going through the numbers. So it just wasn't the same. It wasn't the same thrill, and that's it's unfortunate. But it's more that the top end disappeared as opposed to the cards became terrible. So it's not a bad list. It's just not as great as we'd seen in the past. That's just the nature of it. But every list has to start somewhere, and at the bottom of this list with card number 9 is, well, Fleer Skybox. And where 1995 Fleer Skybox used the Skybox Premium card, which gave at least a cool card design, in 1996 they used Ultra, kind of a name only. I mean, okay, technically on the card back, that is very much an Ultra card back, but the card front is just a canvas for, shall we say, I'm just going to say it, terrible, terrible art. I mean, just really bad. It looks to me like somebody at Fleer Skybox, their family member, a significant other, had just learned how to make art, and probably with airbrushing, and went, hey, look what I can do, and that very loving employee decided to use it as a card. That's all I can think, because it really looks terrible, but that's actually not the worst part of the card. Ironically, the worst part of the card is actually the subject matter, because here we have Santa Claus, who is clearly a Pee Wee football coach. I'm assuming these aren't elves. I assume that they're kids. And here he's very, very lovingly congratulating this kid. Who's very, very proud, sporting a black eye. Okay, here's the problem. Football is played with helmets, and helmets are designed to prevent you from getting a black eye. So the only way you get a black eye in football is if you take the helmet off and engage in some sort of activity that will give you a black eye. So Santa's proud of this. Santa doesn't appear to be a very good role model, which means that I look at this and I say, okay, so if my kid ever plays Pee Wee football and I have a choice, I'm not taking Santa. I think Peyton Manning is the better coach for my Pee Wee football player. Yeah, this is just a dumb card. Really don't like it. And when we move over to number 8, we go to Scoreboard, and we're here at this point, we have a much better crafted card. The art is actually pretty well done. The subject matter, though, is not much better. I mean, okay, I will grant you the idea of Santa Claus in the off season, hanging out with Troy Aikman for some reason. Okay, I mean, it's a fresh idea, and I will grant you that Scoreboard definitely wanted to make a statement, and they did. This card stands out. But as the golden takeover of Pro Line was very want to be, it was a bad idea. The way that they approached it, and here's the reason. Yes, it stands out. It very much, of all of the 5 sets of cards, this is one of the few that truly stands distinctly on its own and is eternally memorable, but not for a good reason. I want to look at a Christmas card. It's not the Christmas off season right now. It's the Christmas season. I want to see a card that looks like Christmas, and this doesn't. That's the thing. Someone went, oh, it would be cool, and that's all the thought that went into it, and then everything else was execution. Just looks terrible. So, yeah, not a fan of this card. And then we get to number 7. And number 7 is Ye Old Reliable Topps. In fact, I don't know that Topps ever had a top design of any of the sets that I've looked at previously. Wow, they are good at just mediocrity. This is a card that is, all right, so first off, the art, I'm not a fan of the art. It is very pop-esque, and I really don't like it. But that's not really the big issue. The big issue is, kind of like with Ultra, the subject matter is, in this case, I like the concept of it, which is we've seen Santa a lot of times playing football, and it's a big rotund guy who's running a route or running as a running back or throwing as a quarterback, however. But it's a big cookie-loving Santa Claus. What about if Santa Claus was actually built to play football? And that's the idea here. And in that regard, okay, I'm okay with the idea, but the execution is pretty bad. Because first off, look at the lockers. You'll notice that they have antlers hanging like trophies. And I understand that they're not trophies. Everybody knows that when reindeer go to play football, they take their antlers off because they don't work well with the helmets and it's just not very safe. So of course they're going to hang their antlers in the locker. But you look at Santa Claus, and this is not a rotund, cookie-loving Santa Claus. This dude is flat out on steroids. And steroids kind of makes your mind kind of crazy, and he doesn't really need those reindeer things, which means that those reindeer antlers almost look more like trophies than anything else. And when I look at the card, that's what comes across. But here's the big problem. Above all else, the way that he is presented doesn't read well, at least for me. You got him kind of balding with a partial comb over, which is weird and dumb. But then you have behind him his hat. And the hat actually, to me, looks like feathers, like a headdress. And then the Holly logo on the sleeve looks, for me, it feels more like a Native American-esque theme, where when I look at this card, he looks like a football-playing mascot for the Kansas City Chiefs. Every time I look at it, that's what I see, the first thing that I see. Then I see the dumb muscles, and then I see the dumb antlers and all of that stuff. This card is an idea. Not a good one, it's an idea. And I think it's an absolute failure, which actually very much fits Topps at this time. And then I find it really interesting that I've got to go all the way to 6, to the best of the bottom half of this list, to come to Pacific. And the reason I say that is that in 1995, Pacific had a card that overall was pretty good, but they had this cutout Santa on the front of it that just looked terrible. Well, here we are in 1996, and not only is it the same art, it's the exact same drawing of Santa on this card. They didn't even change the art of Santa Claus. Absolutely fascinating when I look at this card and think about the fact that, yeah, they literally just, they didn't even mail it in. They got even cheaper than that. They just used the same image. And I guess that's kind of speaks to the fact that in 1997, they wouldn't even do one of these Santa Claus cards. Clearly, they weren't interested. But it is a shame that they used this art again, because the rest of the card looks good. I like the border. I like the background. But more than that, when you look at the card back, I really, really, really like the card back. In fact, when I look at it, I say, okay, I'm just making the call. I'm just calling it right now. I'm saying it. The back of the card is the front, and Santa is on the back. I need it to be that way because I really like the card back. And they just, how in the world do you use the same bad art from one year to the other? I will say it is better than the 3 cards that we've already seen, but still, it's not great. And this leads us to the midway point, which is, well, for a set where you have 8 different card brand designs, and then you also have a header card, so you have 9, the middle point is very, very effectively the header card. And in this case, this is actually really, really nice art. In fact, I would say it's the best art of all of the cards in this card set. Well crafted, and while it's not photorealistic, it is realism. It looks like a used helmet. It just, the way it was crafted is really great. And the card is extremely successful at doing the very thing it's supposed to do, which is to be a promo card advertising the NFL and NFL properties. And the card does that perfectly. Has a little bit of a Christmas theme, but therein lies the problem. Like I said with Scoreboard, I want to look at this card and think Christmas. I don't want to think just football. And while it is, it's effective enough, it does what it needs to do. To me, this doesn't feel like a Christmas card, and that's the only knock I have on it. It's actually not the only knock I have on it, because I would also really like to have something on the card that tells me that this is the NFL property set, or something to distinguish this as a header card, because it really does need to have something, and it has nothing. So it always kind of throws me off. But regardless, very well crafted. It does look pretty good. I just wish it felt like a Christmas card. Which leads me to number 4, which is Collector's Edge. And in this case, so this card is a big mess. It's got a whole bunch of stuff. It's got Santa and his sleigh. It's got Jeff Blake. It's got Steve Bono. It's got a lot of stuff jumbled up around, which is very fitting for Collector's Edge, the way that the company was, we'll say, run. I'll use that term. But right in the middle, they have the Collector's Edge logo all frosted over, and man, that looks awesome. That looks so cool, and that's what I love about this card. In fact, I'll even say this. If they got rid of the rest of that crap and just had the logo frosted over, this would have been a great, great holiday card. Oh man, I wish that they'd done that. On the back, I also like the logo, the way that it kind of disappears into everything. But the front of the card, oh man, I love that logo. And that's the thing. Overall, it's not a bad card. It'd be nice if it had a solid theme, kind of like I'm describing, but the jumbled mess of stuff actually works pretty decently. And so it's a successful card the way that in the previous year, I don't think it was. But at any rate, it works well enough. And then we move on to number 3. And interestingly, at number 3, I actually have this is the same card that I had in the 1995 at number 3, which is Pinnacle. And the only reason I noticed that is because this is the only card in this set that has gold foil. And oh, wow, it has nice gold foil. I mean, I was frustrated in 1995 that both Skybox and Topps Stadium Club didn't bother to use gold foil. With Pinnacle, they kind of threw some on, so it was nice to have it, but they didn't really do anything with it. Here, they made a very meticulously crafted piece of gold foil on the card that makes this card absolutely work perfectly. Because otherwise, it's just a holiday card. That's all it is. It's got Drew Bledsoe on it, and it's got Jim Harbaugh with antlers. Jim Harbaugh with antlers. If there's anybody in Michigan who's watching this, please make sure that Coach Harbaugh's players see this card. They need to see this. I love that. The irony of, at the time we didn't really realize how weird this is, but now we do. A great plus, a great perk to this card. But otherwise, it's just a nice holiday scene with a Christmassy kind of look to it, and really nothing else that really needs to be discussed. But that gold foil makes this feel like a Christmas card. It makes it come across in a wonderful way. So that's what pulls this ahead of Collector's Edge. But the top 2 are very clear, and they're actually the same top 2 as I had in 1995. Not that you really care, but they're in reverse. Because Upper Deck is usually about the best card for just about every year. In this case, it's just about and not the best, because, okay, this is a perfectly fine card. It's kind of interesting. The art's kind of cool. It kind of intrigues me to wonder what's going on here. But as I'm doing this video, I'm realizing I never took the time to actually read the back, so I don't know. And that's the thing. The card does give me it causes me to wonder, but not enough to pursue. I get bored with it and I just kind of move on. And that's not really a great thing, because you want a card like this to really pull you in and just carry with you. And this card, it doesn't. It's quirky, but it's not fun the way that Upper Deck cards used to be. Which leaves me with only one card left for number 1, which is Playoff. And in the case of Playoff, this card does just enough to be a really successful card. Not completely successful, none of these were, but it's really close. They used the Tech Chrome for this, which they did not do in 95, but in 96 they used the Tech Chrome, which is what makes the snow scene just really come out. And the whole scene is kind of cool. You got Santa up in the sky, you got the mountain behind or in the background, and then you have a football field down there with a football field or a football game going on up at the North Pole. And interestingly, you have Santa's shadow shining down or kind of cast down on the field, even though his sleigh is up in the air or something like that. I probably shouldn't think too far into it. The only problem I have with this card, and it's the only problem I have with it, is that you have the Pisa Lighthouse up there that, for me, I mean, I know it's supposed to be the North Pole, but it looks to me more like a straw or a wafer or something, which causes me to wonder if this whole thing is like the whipped cream on top of a sundae or something like that. To me, it really does have a feeling like there's a second component to this whole story that I don't quite understand. And that's the thing that pulls me out. If that pole was not there, the lighthouse was not up there, this card I think would be a completely successful card. Not the greatest card in the world, but still, I think it would be a complete success. It is there, so it's not a success, but still, at any rate, that is, to me, the best card of this whole 1996 run. I wish it was a more exciting and interesting group of cards for many different reasons, but this is what we've got, and so that's the ranking that I have. So, this marks the fourth of all of these videos that I've done. So I've already done 93, 94, and 95. 1997, I'm going to wait until next year to do that. So if you want to see the other videos, you haven't seen the other rankings, I do have those available on my page, so you can check those out. And I've also done a video on the NFL Santa Claus cards of the 90s period, from 1989 all the way through the end of the decade. It's I find it kind of interesting. So yeah, at any rate, if you haven't checked that out, that's another video that you can check out. And yeah, apart from that, I want to thank you guys for watching. And oh yeah, and subscribe if you haven't done so. So yeah, thank you.